Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining us. My name is Avery Danish Jr. and I'm the program manager for diversity and inclusion in the college. I'm delighted to welcome you to today's Healthy Brown webinar for transfer and resumed undergraduate education students. I'm joined today by Nicholas Green, Associate Director of Residential Operations and Communications, Deepak Gupta, Junior Economics and International Relations student. Deepak also serves in a leadership capacity on the Orientation Committee. Dean Julie Lee, Associate Dean for Transfer and Resumed Undergraduate Education Students. Kimberly Millett, the Program Director for the Office of Military Affiliated Students. And Julio Reyes, the Program Director for Undocumented First Generation College and Low Income Student Center and Campus Life. Joining me to moderate this event this afternoon is Nirva LaFortune. Nirva serves as the Assistant Director for Scholar Initiatives and Diversity in the college. As a note for our attendees today, this webinar it will be recorded. You'll receive an email with the link to the recording via email that you use to register for this event. We'll also post the webinar recording on the Healthy Brown website. To begin, I want to highlight some important dates throughout the summer leading up to fall. Okay, so the first date is our webinar series. There'll be another one next week that'll take place with our peer leaders and our peer coordinators, welcome you to the community, and they'll also be able to speak to student life at Brown. We'll also have another one on the 27th to talk about pre-registration and course planning. On August 10th, you'll actually be able to pre-register, and along with the webinar that will follow that, we'll talk more about that with you. And then orientation will kick off August 25th and run until August 28th. Now I would like to open our meeting up for our Q&A, and with that, I will turn it over to Nirva.
Thank you, Avery. We've received almost 100 questions from students, parents, and families in advance of today's webinar. Many of those questions include topics such as health and safety, housing, community, and leave taking. The university has organized a series of webinars that have or will soon cover many of these topics. I would encourage everyone to keep an eye on the main webinar page on the Healthy Brown website to learn more about the past and upcoming webinars and access recordings when they become available. So now I'm going to take a few minutes just to ask some of the questions that students submitted in advance.
I'll get started with our first question. It's for Dean Lee. It's related to academics. When will transfer students pick out classes, and when would a concentration need to be declared?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to start by welcoming all of you to our TV RUE community. It's a pleasure to connect with you this way. In fact, we welcome this opportunity because this is actually a little bit earlier in the summer that we ordinarily would have had for us to have a conversation about your transition to Brown. So we are delighted to have this opportunity as today's session as the first of many conversations that we will host in order to support your transition. In my role as the academic dean for transfer RUE and visiting students, I will be supporting you with your degree completion planning, as well as helping you making decisions about course options for this upcoming semester, as well as the subsequent ones. And just as importantly, really helping you to find opportunity to be fully engaged with the curricular options that you will find at Brown. On that note, I would be happy to answer the questions about pre-registration. The pre-registration for fall classes is scheduled to take place on August 10th. That would be a time during which you will be pre-registering for the classes, that you hope to take for the fall. Some of you actually may know that we have what's called a shopping period in the beginning of each semester. So while you would be pre-registering for classes on August 10th, you will not be locked into those classes. For about 3 weeks in September, you will have an opportunity to either in person or virtually or remotely, depending on the type of classes that you are exploring, to actually attend the classes and to make a final decision about which courses you will carry for fall semester. So we do offer a great deal of flexibility and time for you to really get to know the classes and the faculty and the content of the courses before you make a final decision. Um, Even now, if you're interested, you could certainly explore the course options by looking at the list of courses that were shared with you when the announcement was made. And I believe you could also find the list of tentatively scheduled classes for the fall on Healthy Brown under undergraduate education.
Thank you, Dean Lee. Another question that came in for you is, what are the implications of having second semester sophomores standing this fall?
That's a question that we often get from students who are coming as a second semester sophomores, as well as a first semester junior. Generally, what that means, one of the implication is that you will be declaring your intended concentration. In fact, the date by which you will be asked to declare your concentration is October 13th of 2020. If you are a second semester sophomore or first semester junior. While they may feel like a short time, we would encourage you to take time this summer to consider whether you are going to continue on the trajectory of the concentration that you had pursued in your previous institution, or explore a different or new option by looking at course information that is available at Courses at Brown, as well as Focal Point. Near the end of this month, July, and early August, you will probably also have an opportunity to connect with some of the faculty members who may be available to speak with you about some concentration options. And both of those steps would be helpful for those of you who are thinking actively about your concentration declaration.
Thank you, Dean Lee. So even with the communication that went out from the president, there are students who are still confused about how they will take their courses. So the next question is, are the in-person courses also going to be available online?
That's a great question, and you will be all the students will be receiving and notified of the confirm and final set of classes certainly by the date of the pre-registration that will begin in August. Some of the courses will be taught remotely, while some will be offered in person if they're small enough and if the faculty had elected to offer in such a manner, and some of the courses would be as taught and offered as a hybrid model. So all those decisions will be confirmed in coming weeks, and you will be notified accordingly.
Okay. So the last question in terms of academics that came in advance is that students are also trying to figure out what are the options that they have in the location of where they'll study. So can you provide some examples for students around where they're supposed to study? Perhaps maybe share some best practices, or just provide some input in that area, because students are a little apprehensive about this new remote type learning and model that has recently been communicated.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the fact that this is indeed an unprecedented time for all of us. And I do appreciate the fact that, the circumstances are very, very different from what we would have expected, certainly last summer. So we are very cognizant and aware of the fact that the choices and options that you will have in terms of having space to study on campus would be different from the ones that you would have had pre-COVID. So campus life staff members and university at large is working very diligently to identify the factors that would be important for the community to uphold and ensure the safety and health of all campus members. So I think in coming weeks there will be further notification in terms of which spaces will be open for on campus for you to utilize as a study space. I think what I would emphasize during this time, while challenging in some ways, is also another opportunity for all of us, including all of you who will be new students to Brown, to really expand your thinking in terms of collaborative learning. While it may not be as easy and feasible to physically study together with your peers, we have encouraged and supported forming study groups that could meet virtually. And I think the both research and the practice very much support that peer learning and collaborative learning is a very important facet of increasing academic engagement as well as the educational outcome. So on that note, we will absolutely be continuing our conversation with you so that you could in order to support you as you transition to Brown and begin your academic work, and recommendation we have in terms of how to make the next semester as academically engaging as possible.
Thank you, Dean Lee. And I'm sure also students will be able to access academic coaches to support them as they navigate this new learning experience.
Right.
Thank you. So in addition to the academic component of their overall experience at Brown, students are also concerned about their co-curricular activities and experience, because that is part of their collegiate life. And so for Julio and Kim, we have a few questions. The first one is, what type of clubs will be available for the fall semester? And are there any plans for activities at a distance?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Millette, and I'm the program director for the Office of Military Affiliated Students. So there will be clubs available this coming fall and for the academic year. Brown has over 500 clubs and organizations that you can participate in. The Student Activities Office has done an amazing job with keeping their website up to date with a lot of information about clubs that are available and what it will look like in the fall. So there are some guidelines that are posted. Keep in mind, some of these guidelines may change. So you're going to want to look back often. But as of right now, there are guidelines that promote in-person and remote programming for student organizations. So there will be hopefully opportunities to connect together in the fall with student groups.
Thank you, Kim. So for what would a typical day in life look like for a transfer student living on campus this fall? So for example, if I were living on campus, yet all of my courses were only offered online, how will I meet or interact with other students considering the restrictions that have been put in place to encourage physical distancing and to make sure that everyone on campus remains healthy and safe?
Hi everyone, my name is Julio. I am the program director of the Undocumented First and Low Income Student Center, or as you all will hear a lot, UFLY Center. I will answer part of the question, right? But I think one of the important things to really think about the ways in which we're trying to continue to build community and foster belonging for students coming into Brown, right? So Kimberly talked a lot about the things that the student organizations and clubs are going to be able to do. Again, check back on the Student Activities Office website. But I think another great opportunity to ensure that you are connecting with other students, both with each other and also students that have been at Brown and are returning, is to get connected to some of the centers within campus life, right? So there's UFly, there's the Office of Military Affiliated Students that Kimberly oversees. There's the Brown Center for Students of Color, the Sarah Doyle Center for Women and Gender, the LGBTQ Center, Global Brown Center for International Students. So there's a lot of ways in which you all can get connected and plugged into different programming and communities that already exist on campus. So look us up. We're all on Instagram or on Facebook, right? I see that a lot of people are asking about how to participate in Facebook communities, and there are a lot that exist on campus. So again, it probably won't happen as much in person as we would like, but digital communication has been such a really great way to foster kind of accessible ways of building community.
So just a quick follow-up, Julio. So will your center also offer some programming and opportunities to create those digital spaces?
Yes. So all the centers are going to be doing that. I mean, we're still working with each other and some of our student interns for the summer to really think about what makes sense for students, right? We want these initiatives and the programs to be student-led and informed. So one example I'll give is, last semester with the transition to remote learning, students really wanted the opportunity to continue to connect with each other, even though they were all in different places. So our center worked with the LGBTQ Center and the Brown Center for Students of Color to put together a virtual kind of community dialogue space that met every 2 weeks for UFly students, queer and trans students, and also students of color just come together and talk about what was happening in their lives. We played games, we spilled some tea, we did a lot of really fun and engaging things with each other. So please be on the lookout for those things as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And with it's already challenging for transfer students to adjust to the university because they didn't come in with the first year class, and we also know that it's a major challenge also for some of our veteran students who come in. So what will be some programming for veteran students in the fall and opportunities in order for them to also connect with other students across campus?
Absolutely. So like Julio said, we do plan to have programming. What exactly it'll look like is to be determined, but we will have not only online programming, but we are looking to, if possible, have some programming outside in some of our green space on campus, maintaining social distancing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have a sense of where our veterans will be, how many will be on campus, we are looking to match some of our incoming veterans with our current veterans so that they can get a better sense of life on campus from a veteran that's been already engaged on campus. So we're looking at a few different ways to make sure that there are lots of ways for veterans to connect with each other.
So, and will this information be posted on which website? Where can students access that information?
So we have a website, Office of Military Affiliated Students. We have Facebook, Instagram, and through our newsletter, which we have already added all of our new students to. So
thank you. So thank you so much, Kim. So some of the questions that have come up have been around leave taking and deferment because students are still trying to figure out what to do next, how to navigate distance learning, or is this a good time to, take a leave to do something else that may be volunteering or trying to find a job or an internship opportunity. So for Dean Lee, will transfer students be allowed to defer their matriculation by one semester, wait until the summer semester to come, and are able to wait until the summer semester to come back?
That's a great question, and we have received inquiries along that line from both students and families in the past number of months. And most of you who had that question were directed to our colleagues in admissions.
Mm-hmm.
I think because we value the continuity of your academic engagement, it is expected that all admitted students, both the transfer and RUE students, will be matriculating this coming fall. Um, if you feel that there are extenuating circumstances that make for a very compelling reason why it would be important for you to explore that option, I would encourage you to reach out to admissions, and someone, a staff member there, will be able to have a one-on-one consultation with you. Again, we do appreciate the fact that the circumstances will be different physical circumstances will be different, but we do feel confident that with all of us that are on the panel, both the staff members as well as the student leaders who are working very diligently to prepare for your arrival, that we would be able to offer you opportunity to get to know one another and to get to know Brown.
Thank you. And I also want to let the participants know that if they look at the chat, we've also included links to Campus Life and also the leave and deferment policy. So you can check that out if you're unsure of where to access that information. It's posted in the chat section. So Dean Lee, another question that came up is, what is necessary for learning remotely if you're not in Providence to be able to study at Brown? What are some things, tools, resources that students will need in order to be successful?
That's a great question, and I think in the interest of time, I will keep it very brief. I appreciated Ms. LaFortune actually also already having mentioned we do have our Office of Academic Support Services, and we will be offering virtual workshops in the beginning of the semester to address these set of questions related to how do you continue to be engaged academically, and make sure that you are learning at a level that you hope to be learning in your classes. So please be on the lookout for the information about those sessions that will be offered, specifically talking about the challenges as well as the opportunities that the distance learning will present. Again, I think we will really encourage and create opportunity for all of you to connect with one another virtually, so that even those of you who may be electing to stay with your family or with others away from Providence, that you will have an opportunity to get to know your peer transfer and RUE students and have both the social and academic connections.
Thank you. So we know part of one component of transitioning to Brown is orientation. So for Avery and Deepak, will we have any type of in-person meeting or orientation sessions with transfer students in the fall?
Thanks. Excuse me. Thank you, Nera. I appreciate the question. So during orientation, everything will be remote as we make sure that everyone is safe and doing our best to acclimate folks into Brown. Like Kimberly and Julio said, in the fall semester, we are looking at activities outside with social distancing, of course. And over the summer, we're going to communicate a lot more of that information. You'll hear a lot from me. You'll hear a lot from Deepak. Feel free to jump in and say anything if you want, Deepak.
Yeah, just to jump in real quickly. So, hey everybody, my name's Deepak. I'm currently a rising junior studying international relations and economics, and I am currently based in Connecticut, and I transferred into Brown in fall 2019. And so, as Avery mentioned, I've been helping him a lot with helping manage orientation from the student side. And so I also want to provide some reassurance that even though all the programming is pretty much going to be online, we are working very hard to make sure that you still have the opportunity to connect with other transfers. Speaking from my experience this past year, and at the same time just talking with different transfers from different cohorts, transfers have a weird way of just randomly connecting with one another, like the shared experience of entering Brown under such unique circumstances. So we are working very, very hard to make sure that you're still going to have the opportunity to receive guidance while at the same time having enough opportunities to connect with your fellow transfer students and RUE students.
Thank you. So for students who are transferring into Brown, what are some things that they can start doing in the next few weeks to help make the transition to Brown easier in the fall?
Yeah, I think first, granting themselves some grace. We're dealing with the crisis here, and you've done so much, and you've made the audacious decision to come to Brown. We're happy that you're joining us. So hold on to the fact that you were able to make that decision. Also, I'm going to be communicating with you. You all should have received an email from me either yesterday or on Monday. I'll send those out every week. There's going to be some webinars. We do have a whole social media presence, a transfers page on Instagram and Facebook. You're going to get links to that information as well. You'll meet virtually your peer leader over the next couple of weeks, and you'll hear from them also throughout the summer. Once orientation starts, we're using a platform called Wiser to do orientation on. You should have already received an invite from the Admissions Wiser page. You'll get another invite to the Orientation Wiser page around August 18th, where you'll be able to also connect at length with other students, other who are incoming, other transfer, other RUE students, other veteran students, while also getting to know everyone else that's going through orientation, but having those specific times not only to meet with the peer leaders and learn what life at Brown is about, but also to sort of connect with folks who have the same concentration or also maybe a veteran or transfer to hear about those specific experiences.
Yeah, relating to what Avery was saying, like we're again working hard to try to connect you guys with the peer coordinators and peer leaders, and at the same time, other students who have similar interests as yourself. So that information should be coming soon. So we'll just be working hard to continue connecting you guys with different members of the transfer and RUE community. So yeah.
Thank you. So the next section focuses on residential life and some of the concerns that students have in terms of like living on campus, how that will look like. So the first question I'm going to ask is, Brown requires transfer students to live on campus for 2 years in order to receive their undergraduate degree. Given the COVID-19 pandemic, is this requirement still in place for fall 2020? In other words, if a transfer student, or if I as an incoming junior transfer student choose to live in my hometown and be remote student during the fall 2020, will that violate the living requirements, postpone my graduation date of May 2022?
Thank you for that question. I appreciate someone raising this requirement that has been in place. Obviously, we are in an extraordinary time, and concern for public health and health of everyone is of utmost important and priority at this point. So, for students who are entering Brown as a first semester junior, and if you're electing to study remotely, there would be an implication. We're actually in conversation about, what would be the implication. So please feel free to reach out to me individually, and we certainly would be open to and able to talk with you if this is you're in a position where you are wondering whether your choice of residency will impact your graduation.
Thank you. So the next question is, if a student requested a suite for next year, how likely are they to actually receive that choice? In other words, is there a priority list, and how is that organized? If they're able to be on campus.
Yes. So hi everyone, my name is Nick Green. So regarding suites and the priority system, so it depends on two things. The first is supply and demand. We have a limited number of suites on campus. Obviously, if a very small number of students also request and list suites as their preference, then it reduces everyone's chances of getting one. Whereas if very few students want that option, then it improves chances a little bit. And in terms of priority, the students who we are prioritizing for suites and apartments are students who have approved housing accommodations. So the apartments have low-use kitchens and low-use restrooms. And if a student has been approved for those accommodations, then they would definitely be prioritized to have their needs met in that housing. And many of our suites, not all, but many of our suites do have in-suite restrooms. And so if a student has been approved for that type of restroom, then they would be prioritized there. But after that, it's just a general assignment.
Okay, thank you. So, Nick, will program houses be running this fall? And if so, is it an option for incoming transfer students?
Yeah, so we were in conversation with Megan Fox, who oversees Greek and program houses, about this, and we will have the opportunity to provide Greek and program housing. We're still working on what their allotments will look like, just because there's been a lot of shifting as the various members who are already pre-assigned to those allotments, have made their housing decisions. Some of them have elected to go off campus, some have elected to go remote, and so that's altering things a little bit. One thing that has not changed is Brown has a policy that students cannot live in Greek or program housing during their first semester at Brown, so it's not an option that is immediately available to transfer students.
Okay, thank you. So are transfer students housed together?
So we try to be intentional with that. Obviously, it does depend on whether or not a student has been approved for housing accommodations that might require them to have specific housing. But in general, we do try to keep them in the same building or in the same cluster of buildings, just because like first year students, they are very new to Brown. So yeah, we do try to do that intentionally.
All right. So our student body is made up of a diverse group of students from various backgrounds and ethnicities, and who have also various needs. So if a student has a dietary restriction, will they have access to a kitchen to cook their own food?
Yeah, so in a typical semester, we do have communal kitchens that are available in just about every residence hall. However, due to the pandemic and some of the requirements that we face and some of the constraints that we face, the communal kitchens will be available for water filling and bottle filling, but not for cooking. So the fridges and appliances in those communal kitchens won't be available for general use. That being said, if a student does have dietary restrictions, I would highly recommend that they reach out both to dining services. They have registered dietitians that can work with students on their individual needs regarding meal plans and meal options that are available in the dining halls, and also to student accessibility services, formerly student and employee accessibility services. You'll hear both terms interchangeably as that office's name has just changed, and some of us are still getting used to it. But I highly recommend students reach out to student accessibility services. Their staff are absolutely fantastic. So if you do have a dietary need that might qualify you for one of the low-use kitchens that I mentioned, I highly recommend reaching out to them. Their priority deadline for fall housing accommodations was July 5th, but even though it's after the priority deadline, they will still review your documentation. If you do qualify for accommodations, they will still pass those along to us, and we will, try our best to assign you to the best of our ability. Additionally, because the communal kitchens are going to be closed, every student who is not assigned to an on-campus room that has a kitchen, so if you're not in an apartment, you will have a micro fridge in your room provided by the university.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nick, I have a follow-up for that. If I have to prepare my own meals, or if I need to even prepare kosher meals, how does that look in the residence hall? Is there an option for that, or the accommodation give me access to a kitchen outside of the hall?
Regarding the diner, the kosher dining option specifically, there is a kosher and halal meal plan available through dining services, and then we are working with the Office of the Chaplains and Religious Life about religious accommodations for students who do keep kosher. Because so typically there is a kosher kitchen that's available in the basement of Wayland House that has two different sections, one for meat preparation and one for dairy preparation. However, as that is a communal kitchen, we do currently anticipate that that kitchen will also be closed, and so we're working on backup options for students so they can still have their religious needs met.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nick. Those are all of the submitted questions. So now we'll turn it to Avery to address questions asked via the chat function in Zoom. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nirva. Let's get into it. We have quite a few questions. Our first one is for Dean Lee. Do you know if faculty members will hold office hours in person or in a way that can be socially distanced and safe?
Each faculty member will be making their own decisions in terms of whether they will be offering office hours virtually or in person or both. So once you enroll in a class, you will have an opportunity to hear from them directly what options will be offered in terms of a modality. But what we can share with you is that in the spring of 2020, when the instruction was transitioned to remote, virtually all faculty member offered office hours virtually through Zoom, and many students have found that to be very helpful.
Thank you. Dean Lee, someone else is asking about transfer credits, the process which they're approved and how the class status is established. Could you talk to that for us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of you have already reached out to me, so thank you. I know this is a topic that's on many of your minds, understandably so, as you think about your academic transition for the first semester at Brown. So we are actively reviewing and evaluating your transcript, the transfer credit this week. And we expect the vast majority of you will be able to see your transfer credit notation in Ask by middle of next week. If we have any questions for you in terms of needing your final semester of grades from your previous institution or any other questions related to completed coursework, we will reach out to you individually. On that note, if you are unsure about what semester standing you would be in the fall semester, please refer to admission letter that you receive at the time of admission. The admission letter included what was presumed to be your semester of entry for the fall of 2020 based upon the assumption that most of you were active and a full-time student in the spring of 2020. I know that there will be some questions related to transfer credits. Once you see them, there will be an opportunity for you to speak with me individually. We could potentially even have another session like this to focus specifically about academic preparation. In fact, we have one scheduled during the last week of July. So that we could help you gather information and think about factors that you want to consider before you pre-register for classes for the fall.
Thank you. We have quite a few questions about orientation and the social media pages for orientation as well. So orientation, what will it look like? It will be a 4-day experience via the Wiser platform I talked briefly about. I'm going to speak more to that in the next couple of weeks in the communications that I send out. You'll also have a chance to talk via phone or Zoom in the next few weeks also with the peer leaders. Deepak's going to be working really hard to start setting those pieces up. There's also going to be a social media push next week where we'll give you all of this information, which will also include some exciting activities and some other sort of pieces to get you excited and thinking about the fall. Okay, our next question, it looks like it's also for Dean Lee and it's related to the shopping period. I understand the ability to drop classes. Is it possible to add classes during that time as well? For example, if I was unable to secure a spot in class A and it was full, should student Smith drop that class during shopping period and fill that slot?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, you could add the last day to add classes for fall semester is September 22nd. If you haven't already, we strongly encourage you to visit the Healthy Brown undergraduate education section, and you will find a revised academic calendar. That would be helpful information for both you and your families as you plan ahead for the fall semester. So during that shopping period, you have an ability to both drop and add classes. Some of you may have questions and concerns about being able to get into the classes of your choice. While there will be some capacity limit for some of the classes, we encourage you to still attend the classes during the first week and speak directly to the faculty. And I'm sure Deepak will be and the student leaders will be sharing their experiences. We have found that when you connect with the faculty, let them know that you're a new transfer student and why you're interested in taking a particular class, vast majority of the faculty have been very accommodating and welcoming. Deepak, would you like to add your experience?
Yeah, of course. So first on the pre-registration point, I think you guys coming in we're sort of working on, I know the pre-registration system is changing a little bit. So I think you guys are going to be in a better position to get into some of the classes that you want under the new guidelines. However, even if there's a class that you want to take, but it's reached its capacity, or let's say it's already been filled up before you even had the chance to see it as a transfer, I would just highly recommend reaching out to faculty members. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to faculty members and they've been so willing and accommodating. In fact, they're so interested in what our experiences are like because not many of them have the opportunity to talk directly with transfers. And at the same time, I've actually met a good amount of faculty members who were transfers themselves back when they were in college. So I just have to say, although if any issues come up at all, just be willing to reach out to faculty because I promise you they're going to try to make some accommodations, and even if they can't, they're at least going to be willing to meet with you so that they can build a better connection.
And I'd also like to add that there was a question about peer leader matches and academic advisor matches. You also will see that in the next couple of weeks. You'll be able to talk with your peer leader via phone, and you'll also see a notification from me or from the system in Brown about your advisor and who that person is. And I think that we got to most of our questions. I just want to make sure. There's also, it seems like everyone is worried about how are we going to build community? How am I going to meet people? Where am I going to go? That type of thing. In relation to campus tours and learning that piece, our amazing tour guides, they have prepared a virtual tour that I suggested everyone look into taking. I'll be able to share that link when I send out this webinar to you later. So I would definitely take advantage of that. And I think that we've thought of many different ways with the community piece. We're really excited. Some pieces we're still formulating and putting together. So we ask that you also grant us grace with that aspect. But we're thinking of three things in relation to activities: them being extremely interactive, informative, and a true representation of what the true community is here at Brown. So please check your emails every single week, your Brown email account for more of that information. Okay. So like I said, I think we got through all of our questions. I really want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. If you have any transfer or RUE specific questions, you can feel free to shoot me an email or you can also email the transfers@brown.edu email to get connected with an academic advising dean. I also encourage everyone to visit the Healthy Brown FAQ site, healthy.brown.edu. It's also in the chat for the most up-to-date information and also information specifically for our RUE and transfer students. So thank you again. Have a wonderful day.